And I am live. How are you guys? Welcome to another edition of this podcast, I guess, or live cast, whatever you want to call it, on Strange New Worlds, the new Star Trek series that is getting rave reviews. A lot of people are enjoying this series, and it's understandable because it's pretty damn good. Tonight, I'm going to talk about episode 2, Children of the Comet. And I kept wanting to write Children of the Corn so much, but it's Children of the Comet, season 1, episode 2. And this is the Uhura story, which was pleasing for me because Uhura is a character that I love in the original series, but never really got her full due because most of the cast in TOS didn't get their full due. They were just supporting characters. It was the Kirk, Spock, and McCoy show with a few episodes here and there where the other characters, Chekhov and Scotty and Sulu and Ahura, got to do a little bit more than just say, phasers ready, Captain. Warp 5 ready, Captain. Hailing frequencies open, Captain. So it's cool that in Strange New Worlds, we get to have one of the great legacy characters, Uhura, who changed the landscape of not just television, well, I should say not just science fiction, but television by being a black woman in a television show in the 1960s, but also just a great character. You know, Uhura is one of the great Star Trek heroes. So, my before I go on, of course, I always forget, guys, like and subscribe to the page if you can. I would love it. And on Wednesday nights, we are doing a Deep Space Nine deep dive. We just finished season one. We did, me and my friend Pete just did a review of the last four episodes of season one. Next week, we're moving right into season two. So if you dig Star Trek and you dig some long form Star Trek talk, then check us out on Wednesday nights. We are here talking Star Trek Deep Space Nine. But let's get back to this episode of Strange New Worlds. And my thoughts are it was good. I'm having fun with Strange New Worlds. It's definitely they're delivering on what they promised, which would be these bottle episodes. We get this resolution at the end. It's just old school Trek back. Um, it's just I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm not gonna lie to you. As much as the season long arcs from Discovery and Picard can get frustrating because I don't think sometimes they know how to fill in those middle episodes that well, and it can drag a little bit, especially Picard season two. Forget about it. But even with Discovery season four, it drags a little bit. The I like it. I think I like the long form a little bit better than the bottle episodes. Especially now I'm watching Deep Space Nine, which is a show that's built on what happened last week, even in its first seasons where it wasn't like hardcore like that. But it something about it attracts me a little bit more. Now, the difference between what's going on in Strange New Worlds versus TOS or TNG or Voyager even is that in Enterprise, of course, can't forget Enterprise, is that the characters are having development. So although there isn't this big overarching mystery that they need to solve by the end of the season, it's nice to see that hey, the characters are going to remember what happened last week, and they will be affected if they go through trauma. It's not like next week, star date, whatever. We're circling some planet, and we totally forgot about the fact that last week we almost got blown out of the sky by some uh, weird space jellyfish or whatever. Okay, so that part is cool, but I do like this idea of a conflict that carries through the whole season. But I understand that it's hard to do, and I appreciate what Strange New Worlds has brought to the table. It's just I've seen it before. I think that's all it is. We got 3 seasons of TOS, seven plus another seven of TNG, plus another seven of Voyager, plus another four. That's let's do my math. I'm terrible at math. Was that 21 seasons? I'm not counting Deep Space Nine because obviously it left. It didn't use that formula. But that's a lot of seasons of bottle episodes, morality tales, gotcha twist endings um, that we already have. So as much as I'm enjoying Strange New Worlds, I can't say I'm like, wow, I'm excited. I can't wait to the next episode because of the fact that it's built like bottle episodes. Um, oh, and by the way, I will get into spoilers in the second half of this video. So this is just my general thoughts, what I'm feeling about Strange New Worlds at the moment. Let me know in the comments how you feel about Strange New Worlds at the moment, and we can discuss. Okay, so I'll save spoilers for the end, which I'm totally stealing from Jesse Gender, one of my favorite YouTubers, Star Trek YouTubers. So, big ups to Jesse Gender. Go check out her channel. Other thoughts about the show in general, watching 2 episodes, it's very laxed, like they're very, I don't know. I like the fact that Pike is, he's jokey and he's a very nice guy, but it doesn't have it and people complain a lot um, about Discovery with this. And in fact, I'm one of these people. Captain Pike to forget about. What's up, Jeffrey Johnson? How are you? We're talking Star Trek here. Are you watching Strange New Worlds, by the way? I'm just giving my thoughts on it. But Captain Pike, yes, bad jokes. There you go. It seems like he's too light. I like my captains to be a little bit more serious. Maybe not as emotional as Captain Burnham can get sometimes. And Discovery is always like emotion is up here, like everything is intense. I like the fact that things are a little bit calmer on the Enterprise, but it's a bit too calm sometimes. So I would like to see a little bit more seriousness in the cast at some point in the future. And that leads right into my thoughts on Uhura, because this was an Uhura episode. And I get that this is her first year. She's still a cadet. This is 10 years or so before we meet her in with Captain Kirk. But she seems a bit too bubbly for me. Like I'm not digging this version of Uhura as much as I thought I would. I think the actress is wonderful. She's doing a great job, but Nichelle Nichols just brought a certain level of gravitas, I guess you want to call it. Like there's a bit more strength to the character than this version of Uhura. This is played by Celia Rose Goodling, and I get it. She's young, and she's still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but I don't feel she's Uhura yet. Okay. And again, like I said, yes, there's maturing that goes on until we get to the Uhura that we remember from the 1960s show and the movies. But I would imagine there's like a line, I would have to imagine a line that takes us from this Uhura to that Uhura. And I don't see it yet. It's still early in the show. So I imagine there's going to be more that's going to happen to get us there. Um, in Zoe from the Kelvin movies, I had a similar problem with her, but on the other end, she was way too militant. She was way too. They tried to make her into an uh, action figure. I can forgive that a little bit more because that was the Kelvin verse. It's a parallel universe or whatever the hell it is. So I can handle that a little bit more and have action Uhura, but mega bubbly. She almost reminds me of Adira from Star Trek Discovery. Is also not really the Uhura that, uh, for me, I imagine turning into the one from TOS. If you understand what I mean. I'm not saying she's bad. uh, Beautiful actress, great actress. She hit it out of the park today with this episode because it was really centered around her in her finding her place in Starfleet and realizing if she wanted to be in Starfleet at all. So she did have this nice little arc within this episode, but I don't know. We'll see. I think that goes into the whole bubbliness of Strange New Worlds. I guess I'm just not a bubbly guy, so it doesn't attract me as much. And that gets into something else I've been hearing in the Facebook groups, which is about Spock. Okay. And how he's smirking a lot and he seems a little bit like he laughs in this episode, even at the end, because he wants to. He doesn't understand jokes, why people joke. And then at the well, this is a little bit of a spoiler. I'll give Okay, I won't give any more spoilers after this. But he does laugh at the end of the episode. Now, that's understandable only because in the original pilot, The Cage, Spock shows a lot of emotion. He smiles. I don't think they had gotten his character perfected yet. Once we start with the TOS with Kirk, that first episode, which I believe is Where No Man Has Gone Before, then we get the Spock that we're accustomed to. There's still some tweaking going on, but, he's somebody that has totally suppressed his emotions. There's no smiling going on after he's with Kirk. But if I'm imagining that this is a younger Spock who hasn't exactly come to terms with his human and Vulcan side, it makes a little bit of sense, that he's still a little smirky, a little, what do you call it? A little more in touch with his human side than he would become later. So I hope that Strange New World shows us this development of how Spock became a bit more stoic than he is at the moment. But yeah, this show is all bubbly, so it would make sense that this is a more bubbly Spock. Again, I can forgive him a little bit more than Uhura. Uh, and of course, Nurse Chapel, she's beyond bubbly. She's just a wild woman. But that I can forgive only because Nurse Chapel did absolutely nothing in TOS other than just, fall in love with Spock and really want to get in his pants. So, she's been given a lot more to do. So, all the Spocks were consistent. The famous eyebrow. Yeah, he's doing a great job. Ethan Peck. He was great in Star Trek Discovery. I'm not talking down about any of these actors. They're wonderful actors, and they're doing a great job. It's just, it seems the show is going. It's trying really, really, really hard to be bright and bubbly, which is not necessarily what Star Trek aims to be. Okay, just because TNG, I think that's probably neck and neck with the original series as the Star Trek everybody knows. And the Next Generation was like one big family, but even still, there was a seriousness about it. It was, there was a lot of seriousness in how they performed their duties, how they went about their business. Even in their downtime, there seemed to be a little bit more formality to how they connected with each other. In TOS, the same thing. I mean, a lot of bright colors, but the characters themselves weren't bubbly. It wasn't like, "Ooh, we're on the Enterprise. Let's fly around space. It's so cool. Oh my god!" That's how it feels a little bit, and it, I mean, it's the style of the show. I'm enjoying it, but it doesn't connect me to this idea of them being out there in the vast unknown and the scariness of what space is. And a lot of these characters have a lot of experience in space, and they would know that, yeah, space isn't all bubbly and fun. Pike just seems like he's having a really good time. And especially given what he knows about his future now, I don't think he would be as bubbly as he is. So there you go. There's me just shitting on bubbliness. I'm not a bubbly person, I guess. It's just not my style. Um, I'm a bit more serious, so maybe that's all that's about. Now, here's we're going into spoilers now, guys. This is just my general feelings of the series, the episode so far. But the episode was good. It was a great second episode. Um, they're going around this Persephone system. They want to study this ancient comet that's flying by, and we start out with a dinner party in the captain's quarters, which is again just showing how gregarious and simpatico Captain Pike is, which is great. It's fine. Uh, Archer used to host dinner parties in Enterprise. There's a great episode of Deep Space Nine it's one of the great openings where what do you call it? Odo is trying to mix something in the pot that Cisco is cooking up with Dax. Everybody's there, cooking in Commander Cisco's quarters. So it's not, something that's abnormal seeing people have a dinner party on the Starship Enterprise or any starship or base. But it just went on very long. Oh my goodness, that was a long scene, okay? And it was a long scene that was supposed to set up Uhura opening up to Pike because she got invited to the party, and she ends up being asked by Pike, so what brought you here? Why do you want to be in Starfleet? And she says she's not even sure if she wants to be in Starfleet, and she tells a little bit of her backstory, what happened to her family, and it just was a very long opening sequence just to get us to that point. I get that, again, I guess as a response to the criticisms of Discovery, they're doing everything Discovery doesn't do on this show. And one of those things, I guess, is just having characters sit down and talk without much action going on. I'm all for it. Like I said, I'm watching Deep Space Nine right now. There's a lot of that goes on in Deep Space Nine of characters just sitting down and talking, but the conversation needs to have a little bit more depth, not just how was your day type stuff, which is all that was up to the point where Uhura told a little bit of her backstory and she just brought the party down. Party pooper, Uhura. And then that does lead to another conversation that Pike has about his mortality, this time with Una, to discuss the future. Maybe they can change, he can change his destiny. Is the future really written? Although I like these conversations, it would just totally break Star Trek canon for Pike to not end up in that chair. And I feel weird saying that, being someone who's so against the gatekeepers, the Star Trek gatekeepers who are like, oh my God, they changed this, they changed that. How can they have technology that looks better now than it did in the 1960s? And how come the Klingons change and all that? There's certain parts of canon which I feel can be changed. You need to update stuff. People watching Star Trek today are probably never going to sit and watch 1960s Star Trek. And if they do one day, they'll understand that, hey, this was a show from the 1960s. Some things changed, some things worked, some things didn't. Like Pike himself in the cage, he says, hey, I don't feel comfortable with women on the bridge. That's an extremely sexist thing to say. He said it. There's no getting around it. We just kind of have to gloss over that and show that this version of Pike is not sexist. In fact, in episode 1, there's a funny line where he's coming out of the turbo lift and he's like, I'm not accustomed to new number 1, because Una is not on the bridge, and this other girl, La'an, is going to be his first in command for that first mission from last week's episode. So we just understand, it's 2022. Things have changed in society. We can tweak some things within the Star Trek universe and you just live with it because it is a TV show at the end of the day. But certain things like, the fact that Kirk commands the Enterprise after Pike, the fact that Pike ends up in a wheelchair or whatever, the beeping chair, you can't change that. That's just totally, that's too big of a change to make. So the fact that they're having these conversations about the future and can you change the future, maybe it's not set in stone, seems like within the universe it makes sense because they don't know what the future holds, but for us as an audience it's kind of a waste of a conversation because we know what's going to happen in the future. Now, what I do like is when it circles back to what Pike is willing to do with his own life, knowing that he's got this 10-year window of life left. What is he going to do with those 10 years? Then the conversation gets a little bit more interesting because then we get to see that. We get to see things that we don't know based on that premise. So when they get to this comet, they're thinking, oh, okay, we'll just blow some torpedoes at it or something, like just move it out of the way because it's about to crash into a planet, in this Persephone system. Problem is, when they try to do this, there's a force field on this planet. And well, that's odd, right? On this comet, I should say. There's a there's a force field on this comet, and you're like, oh, well, that's different. And then we get into this Prime Directive debate, and I tell you, I think I'm an evil bastard because in my mind, the Prime Directive would say that uh, we got to leave this planet alone. And why do they want to move it? It's because it's about to crash into a planet that does have some inhabitants. They're pre-warp, very primitive people. They would get blown out of the sky, basically, if this comet were to hit the planet. So for the Enterprise to move it is a little bit like playing God. Now, I know that this has come up before in Star Trek episodes. I was looking here that there's an episode called Homeward in TNG where kind of a similar situation where the planet's biosphere was going to be destroyed through natural geological processes, and Picard was willing to just sit back and watch this happen. And some folks intervened and they didn't allow it to happen. And Picard, that's not the first time Picard's been willing to just sit back and let things happen. And I think there's an episode of Enterprise that has a similar premise where people are dying from a disease, hey, that would wipe out, a lot of the inhabitants of the planet, and Archer's willing to just sit back and Phlox. I'm not a huge fan of Enterprise. I forget the characters' names. The doctor's like, hey, no, we can save them. So the fact that at least there was a debate about this in TNG and Enterprise, but in this episode, it was just like, hey, we don't, Pike is like, we are not about interfering with pre-warp civilizations, even though I just did it last week, but we won't just let a whole civilization die out and get blown out of the sky. And why does he have to say this? Because while they send an away team, which is Spock, La'an, Lieutenant Kirk, which is Kirk's brother, and Uhura on her first away mission, while they're on this comet try to figure out what the hell is going on, how can we move it, this alien ship shows up called the Shepherds, and they're like, stop fucking with our comet, man. And it's not just a comet, it's a special comet named, I wrote it down here, Mehanet. Okay, and Mehanet brings life. Okay, it's the arbiter of life. Okay, and it's preordained that this comet is gonna hit this planet, and if it decides it's gonna hit the planet, that's what's gonna happen. If everybody dies, that's what's gonna happen. Don't F with this planet, and we're willing to blow you out of the sky to prove how serious we are. And Pike is like, look, dude, Prime Directive says we can't give any technology or alter the natural course of this civilization, but we won't let them die either. And as I'm watching this, I'm like, is that really what the Prime Directive says? Okay, is that really what the Prime Directive says? Enterprise is a more mobile ship in space. Good special effects. Yeah, I I did like that. We'll get into the little action sequence with the Enterprise. That's cool to see. Modern Trek and all the special effects. It's really cool to see the Enterprise moving about in ways it couldn't way back in the 60s. And that's another example of it's okay to retcon stuff like that. Yeah, we had 1960s, model ship made of wood or whatever, of plastic, versus um, what we can do today with CGI. Yeah, you're going to have awesome space battles with the Enterprise that are going to be nothing like the ones from back in the 60s. So, so yeah, this whole issue with the Prime Directive, man, I'm watching this and I'm like, should Pike be saying all of this? I mean, yeah, it's sad to see these people go, but you're basically playing God. And if that comet's supposed to hit, that comet's supposed to hit. I mean, imagine if somebody had moved the planets out of, or the comets out of the way, or the asteroids or whatever, that blew up the dinosaurs. And some people believe that, there have been civilizations before ours, and, comets might have hit, wiped them out, you know, is or even if a comet comes now, would an alien race just move it out of the way? I don't know. And what if the civilization was technologically advanced enough where they would notice that, look, something just moved this comet out of the way? So it's a tricky little Prime Directive issue for me. And maybe I'm evil for thinking that way. But I know Picard definitely was hardline as hell. But the thing with the Prime Directive, it's like it's hardline Prime Directive when the script needs it. It's, yeah, we can fuck around a little bit when the script doesn't need it, or when the script needs that instead. So that's what happens in this episode. Basically, it's Pike trying to negotiate, ends up having a little bit of a fire battle with the shepherds of the Mehanet comet out in space. On the comet, we got Spock, Lian, Kirk, who gets he touches something. Don't ever touch things, guys. Especially when it's like a big space egg looking thing. Do not do that when you're on an away mission. But he gets blown out of like 10 feet back and is out of action for most of this episode. And then it centers on Uhura. Uhura's got to figure this out because they do find this big space egg looking thing inside the comet, and they need to figure out how to communicate with it. And after much thinking, and Uhura second guessing herself and not knowing if she's cut, uh, if she's capable of really doing anything of service to this away mission, she figures out that, hey, well, actually Spock figures out because she keeps humming. Thank God she was humming, because Spock sees, look, the damn comet starts reacting when you're singing. And the episode turns into a mini musical, and it's through her singing that she's able to somehow communicate with this comet. It was silly, but that part I accepted a little bit more because Uhura does sing. There's some great scenes of her singing in the original series. There's the unfortunate scene of her singing in Star Trek 5. But yes, arts and singing has always been a part of Uhura. So that's totally in character for her to be singing. And it was kind of a redux of the end of Star Trek Discovery, where they had to communicate with this alien uh, through means different than language, as we know language. So it's kind of cool, and it's cool how Strange New Worlds was able to do it much faster and resolve that issue much faster than Discovery. Um, Although I did like what Discovery did too. It's just Discovery, what was it, chemicals, that they were able to communicate through these chemicals and in scientific formulas, where here in Strange New Worlds, the other universal language, one is math and the other is music. And, music has a mathematical base also, but it was cool to see that. And it was cool that they were able to do that and resolve it as quickly as they did, and it didn't feel rushed, which is kind of my only negative of last week, is that it felt a little rushed. And this one, it was actually a little bit slow in parts. Like I said in the beginning, it's like, good lord, can we get past this damn dinner scene? Like, it just, yeah, I was I wanted to fast forward through that, but I didn't. Um, and then we have our happy resolution, and then we find out some weird stuff about this damn comet. It was, goes back to this whole destiny thing. Is that the comet actually wanted? It's almost like it needed Spock to do what he did. That was it was a message that he had sent. When Uhura communicated with the damn thing, that she later was able to decipher, is that the comet actually predestined and knew that Spock needed to move the comet, because there's a whole little, you know, Pike comes up with a plan, or Spock comes up with a plan to move the comet without the shepherds knowing that they're interfering. Whatever, you get your little fun conclusion, but kind of bizarre, kind of bizarre. The comet is has some precognition going on, strange new life and new civilizations, a prophet comet. And when the comet passes by the planet, it sprinkles some humidity or something on the planet, and then it starts to rain. And now this planet will be terraformed, I guess, in some 100 years, and new life will spring on this planet. And basically, it is this comet is exactly what the shepherds said it was, which was a bringer of life. But I don't know, should the crew of the Enterprise be playing God like that, and sprinkling life on planets, or just let them blow up? I know also Into Darkness, the whole opening sequence of that deals with this volcano that's about to eradicate all of the life, or most of it, on this planet. And I'm not a big fan of Into Darkness. I like the Kelvin movies. I like 2009 a lot, and Beyond, I think, is pretty solid. But Into Darkness is my least favorite. Uh, maybe that's why. Because I would be like, let the damn volcano explode. Pompeii exploded. Krakatoa, is that what it's called? The one in Indonesia? Krakatoa or something. It exploded. New islands were formed, others were destroyed. It is what it is. It's an act of God, okay? And I don't know if in Aliens, maybe Aliens have saved us a few times and we just didn't know it. Thank you, Aliens, for getting us to 2022. Thank you. So that's pretty much it, guys. I'm a bit tired. I hope I made sense. Thank you, Jeffrey, for jumping in. Um, but that's my review. I give this episode, it's a solid. I'm not giving it a star review. It's a solid episode of Strange New Worlds. This is a nice series, but it's nice, and that's the only thing. That's my biggest criticism right now. That it's just a nice series. It's a throwback. I know it's made a few of the crying Trek fans happy. I'm not downing it. I'm enjoying it, but you know what? I like my Star Trek taking chances. I like my Star Trek tripping on itself because it totally fucked up, but at least it tried to do something different. I think that's the special thing about the franchise is that it's so open to different venues, different ways to present Gene's vision. So although I'm enjoying it, Discovery is still my favorite of New Trek, and I'm looking forward to season 3 of Picard, and hopefully they'll clean up that mess that was season 2. Meanwhile, Strange New Worlds will keep me happy, and put on and comfortable until then. Folks, I'm going to bed. Don't forget, like and subscribe. Leave comments below. Thank you, Jeffrey, for dropping in. Hope to see you soon. I miss you, brother. And you can tell by my eyes here, I worked a lot. I've been up since 7 a.m. But I did want to get this out because after Friday and the weekend, I have zero time to do these. Deep Space Nine every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. here in Brazil time. We're going to start season 2 next week. Thank you, folks, for listening. And be as bubbly as you want. I'll still love you in your own special way. That's just not me. Later. Live long and prosper.